I did pronounce that correct?
Good job.
Oh, there you go. And you think I would learn because she's from my hometown, or our hometown in Wenatchee, Washington, and where you are, you work with the court. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your position is and what you do?
Okay. So I am the Superior Court Administrator for Chelan County, and I've worked for the court for about 18 years. We didn't have an official administrator for a very long time, but I served that role. And then in January 2014, I became the official court administrator. One of the many things I do is monitor the guardianship cases in Chelan County. We haven't had a particularly formal process. That is evolving all the time, but that's one of the things that I do.
Okay, so explain for maybe the layperson, because we've had some interviews with commissioners.
Okay.
And you're an administrator.
Correct.
I can see where maybe some people might get those two confused. What's the difference?
So a court commissioner is a judicial officer. He or she actually goes into court and hears cases. I am an administrator. I am not an attorney, although some court administrators are attorneys. And my role is more the administration of the non-judicial function of the court. So I work with grants, I work with guardians ad litem, I do budgeting, reporting, all those sorts of things.
Okay, so really you're kind of working, not maybe perhaps from the legal side, although that's not entirely clear or true, but you work more with the nuts and bolts of the process of doing everything. Okay.
Yes.
So now you also are volunteering with the Wings Conference as well, and you're on some committees. Which committees are you on? And tell us a little bit about them. What do you hope to do?
What I've been working with is best practices, mostly with the court monitoring. I've had a more active role in that subcommittee, I think technically is what it is. There's also another, what I believe is also a subcommittee regarding guardians and best practices for them. I got involved with that one not knowing exactly what it was. I feel like I've been able to have some input from a court perspective because there's not a lot of well, I think I might be the only court administrator that I'm aware of that's been volunteering, but mostly we've worked on the best practices for the court monitoring, coming up with ideas for courts to either enhance or create guardianship monitoring programs. And when I say guardianship monitoring, I'm talking about specifically from the court perspective or the clerk perspective, depending on who's doing that, as far as helping guardians, both lay guardians and CPGs, meet their timelines for filing reports and having hearings and that sort of thing. Okay.
So from the perspective of just Fona, is what about this conference has drawn you here? Have you picked up anything new, or something that may be a little surprising to you, something you've enjoyed?
Yeah, well, it makes me think of the saying that you don't know what you don't know. We say that a lot in my court administrator world. It's amazing to me what I don't know. I sit in a pretty small silo in the wings world, and it's been very enlightening and interesting to hear all the different things that are going on across the state and across the nation. So that's been great for me.
Cool. And I just want to ask one more question, and that is, from the perspective of some of our folks, we've talked with some of the court commissioners. They're from Spokane, Seattle, Thurston County. Chelan's not quite as big. It's a little bit smaller.
That's right.
And is there any special challenges that we have in the rural side of the world versus, say, Spokane?
Yes. That's funny you asked that, because one of the questions that came up during the morning session that was on the monitoring portion was, the question was, I'm hearing a lot about local monitoring practices and best practices for local courts, and why is this not a statewide recommendation, or I don't want to say initiative, but why are you not talking about statewide best practices? And one of the challenges for superior courts is that you do have the Spokane counties, the King counties, these places that have lots of resources, lots of people who can work on these things. And then you have the Chelan counties, and then you have the Adams or Asotin, or counties that are even smaller.